the clocks are started. We see Gunina responding to knight f3, and we're going to get a quiet start to this game. It's going to be potentially a King's Indian attack.
Yeah, this is some kind of a surprise because I recall Alexandra being a very dangerous 1e4 player. Maybe because she plays Valentina and they know each other so well, she prefers to play a solid strategical game instead of her tricky openings.
It's a solid start to this one, and we actually just saw Kosteniuk take this pawn on d5, and black takes e takes d5. So instead of keeping the structure symmetrical, and the knight has committed itself to d7, if you take with a c pawn, you want to get a knight on c6. But I like this pawn chain for black. It's aiming in the direction of the king side, so that's where black should focus her pieces.
Yeah, normally white is going after black's light squared bishop with some h3, knight h4 ideas, but black has not yet committed the knight to f6, so black is very flexible. I wonder how white wants to justify her stuff. Okay, knight goes to f6, so white can after all go against the light squared bishop.
And sometimes you can, knight h4, I was going to say play that before pawn to h3, and that's what Kosteniuk chooses. It's given a question mark in this position. And look at black's play. Very solid. You're not doing anything spectacular, but all of your pieces are in natural squares. Meanwhile, there's a queen on d3, not necessarily the best square for it. The knight on h4. I don't like this construction for white. It feels like it's artificial.
Yes, and the point was that with the bishop on d6, usually that bishop is on e7. I think this is the big difference, and why I was saying that black's play was very flexible. White had to play the move rook e1 in order to try to chase that bishop, because if she would have done it earlier, then after bishop h5, g4, knight takes g4 would have been possible. H takes g4, let's not forget, black's bishop was still on d6. Then after queen takes h4, g takes h5, it have resulted in queen h4 to h2 checkmate. That was the problem, and that's why the rook move, rook e1 had to be played.
And look at this. g4 attacks the bishop, knight e4 the response. The queen on d8 is opened up on the diagonal towards that knight on h4. So Peter, I'm liking black's position because white has committed a lot by pushing the pawns in front of her king.
Exactly. If you can't get that bishop, and it seems to me like black can now just fall back with the bishop quietly to g6. It looks very promising for black.
And look at the knight retreating to d6. Perhaps not the most aggressive move, but those dark squares, as you're pointing out on the king side, if you trade on f5, the queen comes to h4, and I think that white should be in serious danger.
Yes. The only good news is, if white is able to get e2, e4 in, you get some kind of a harmony, but now the knight c4 move was also hitting the bishop on d2, so Alexandra retreats the bishop all the way back to c1.
And now if you take on f5, I guess the queen can take back. So we see the queen, it lands on f6. Valentina gently playing all of her moves, but they come with purpose, and you're showing e4 as a possibility. Yeah, the black pawn on d5, it's overloaded, protecting the knight on c4.
Exactly, the queen on d3 is not doing perfect, makes perfect sense. Yeah, doing an excellent job hitting the knight on c4. I feel like the worst part of this game, this opening, has passed for Alexandra. Black might be perfectly fine, but now it also makes sense from white's perspective.
Suddenly white has a plan, a purpose, some free squares, some room for her pieces, and the queen just parks itself on h4, and that rook on e1 is under attack, and it moves up to e2. But here comes the second knight for black. I still prefer black's position because her king is safer.
Yes, exactly. And knight f6 is such a lovely move, especially in a fast time control in a blitz game. Knight h5, knight h4 create problems to your opponents. That's exactly what you need. White needs to burn time. And now b3 weakening something. I'm counting. Is bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, knight d6 eventually possible using the pin?
Yes, and she starts with knight d6. I like that she keeps the tension between bishop and knight. If e5 is played, both knights are under attack, but bishop takes knight on c3, queen takes, and that pin is there. So knight takes f5 is you're highlighting.
Yes, this is what I have been worried about. It's not only the pawn, but also the squares. Black already has a lovely square for f5. The other knight can also join the party. Yeah, okay, takes, and then we're gonna see knight h5.
Peter, even if you gave white a C pawn, let's say, to even up the material, black is still better because of the control of the dark square. So it's much more fun to play this for black, regardless. But when you're also material ahead, it's too much to be true.
Yeah, it's basically completely winning for black. Also, the clock situation, black is not down to last couple of seconds. She still has almost 1.5 minutes.
And rook e6, a rook left going to g6 next. The white king is in danger. And for black, you have all the time in the world because you have a light square bishop and all these weak dark squares that the knight's coming to f4, the queen can come to g3, a rook to g6, h3 is going to fall. This is over.
This is completely hopeless. Yeah, it's strategically better for black. Black has the initiative. Black is up material. You can even just follow it up with rook a8, rook g6, but you might even not need the rook on a8 to join the action at all.
And white hardly has a move. You've highlighted it like a Tetris piece, but unfortunately, there is no puzzle to solve for white. There's nothing that's going to fix her position. All the squares are weak, and she's also down on the clock by quite a lot.
Yeah, she knows that it's completely lost. She will play queen d2, I believe she has played a move.
Queen d2, and I think rook f8 was played by Valentina, making sure there are no back rank checkmates. So taking extra precaution by putting her rook next to her king. And it seems that the move was played king h1. That's a very sad move to choose. Knight f4, rook to g6 or h6. How does white survive this? You can't. Rook h6 to
You
start.
can't. Yeah, you can't survive. Rook h6. Okay, just to troll me. I was already highlighting rook g6 so many times, but rook h6 makes perfect sense. Knight f4, going after the h3 pawn, creating checkmating ideas.
I have to say, though, knight g3 to f5 was the choice going after the d4 pawn. I do like white's position a little bit more now than I did before. It's still losing. I'm not going to dismiss that. But at least your pieces are a bit more active, so it gives you some hope.
Yeah, you did not get checkmated at once. On the other hand, look at this. Yeah, g6, knight g7, very nicely grouping. Also, black's mysterious looking rook f8 works to perfection. It was a great prophylactic, sensing that there might be action ahead on the f file.
And Valentina is an extremely kind person, and she is moving her pieces quite gingerly here, but she's not being nice in this game. She is just controlling everything up a couple pawns, and now she's been moving her queenside pawns to freeze white's in place. D4 remains a target, a weakness, something that white has to passively defend.
Yeah, it's a hopeless position. Okay, 2 pawns in an endgame, plus in this structure, black's knight is just perfect. The weakness on d4, everything is in black's favor.
Love that move though, b4 by Kosteniuk. It's the only move that gives her a chance at some counterplay, and it seems that wait, I'm looking at the camera. It seems like white is putting pressure on this b7 pawn, and the black king has jumped out into the open, going in the attack.
Wow. So okay, we are waiting for all those moves to appear.
Here they come.
Yeah. All right. Okay, nothing really changed. Black is just too dominant. The rook on e7 is wonderful, protecting and attacking at the same time.
And it's 2 pawns to the good for black, and knight d4 just played by Gunina. She might just checkmate Kosteniuk. With the knight and the rook cutting off the white king's access, there could be a checkmate even if she doesn't rush her pawns forward.
Yeah, she can just choose whatever she wants. The knight on d4 is very powerful. Look at that bishop on b7. Okay, knight's transferred back to g4.
And we see a rook trade. I'm looking at the live camera feed. A rook trade was offered and declined. I mean, Kosteniuk still has some chances because if black fumbles and loses a pawn here, the pawns are going up the board a bit. But if you can't push them anymore, perhaps that gives Kosteniuk a chance.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a miracle already that Kosteniuk is still in the game and she's able to fight, but nevertheless it looks completely winning. Be careful, knight e3, bishop f3, checkmate. You can lose the game.
And that's why she
Unbelievable.
dropped her knight back. Great call by you that there are some checkmate ideas because the black king was sandwiched in, squished by its own pieces. And now Kosteniuk's going after the loose g pawn. Black is pushing pawns forward. So if you don't get those pawns to the other side quickly, maybe white has an outside chance with the rook pawn passer. And there has to be a checkmate here.
Yeah, also the pawns are marching. So bishop e6 attack the rook on a2, rook h2 played, put it on a dark square, exactly.
And there's the black knight. Checkmate is on the first rank, and now the rook and bishop are under attack. This could be resignation. You see Kosteniuk looking. She gives up her bishop, but it's just checkmate on the next turn. Oh.
Yeah, okay, it's over.
Resignation. Valentina Gunina is perfect in the Women's World Blitz Championship.